What is up, everyone? Your boy Armando Marsaw here. We are firing up another Drafters Million Best Ball draft. This is going to be my, what is this, 34th draft of the season. We got, a bunch of slow drafts going on up here, exactly 10. So we drew the seventh pick here in this draft. I did one earlier today, and I was the fifth pick, was able to get Jamar Chase and ended up with a pretty nice roster construction here. Haven't gotten the seventh in quite some time. I have had it a few times, but really haven't gotten the seventh in quite a few drafts. I've actually been very fortunate in getting a lot of top 4 or 5 picks in recent drafts. So let's see how this one shapes out here. In the seventh pick, I mean, look, we're looking at Bijan Robinson, AJ Brown at times. Really depends on who falls here. Haven't really seen Amon-Ra St. Brown fall this low. Hoping he does here. Someone that I've been actually taking, ahead of ADP. I've actually taken them in second, third overall as well. A lot of it's to diversify my portfolio. Have a lot of Jamar Chase, so I've been kind of gravitating towards CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, kind of that range, instead of getting someone like a Chase. So let me clear. I am ready. So I was distracted here talking to you guys. So yeah, I like this pick. I think I might not be going with some of the players that I have ahead in my rankings in this time around. It depends on who falls to me or whatnot, because I am, trying to diversify. I am trying to make sure that I'm not overexposed to any player in particular. I mean, I still have a lot of drafts to go. So there's definitely going to be other ways for me to diversify, but I've, like I said before, with that first pick, I've avoided Chase, I've avoided CMC, and I've gone Lamb, St. Brown. I've considered Bijan. I haven't done it yet, but I've considered Bijan there, just for, just to diversify my portfolio here, my exposure here. So we saw Chase go number one there. So no surprises. No surprises here, really. Like, you kind of see those top 3, top 4. I'm expecting St. Brown or Jefferson to go here. And then, Bijan, very next pick. If not, he lands to me. I'm hoping he lands to me. But like, if Bijan lands to me, I could start with a unique build. So I'm definitely gonna get someone I love here. St. Brown or Bijan. I'm very happy with either of the two. I'm excited about that. So if we get Bijan, I'm probably gonna go with a different start to the draft and maybe go running back. I've been trying to get the receivers early on, but this will give me a unique build on my end. I did this not long ago. I think Bijan and I think Jonathan Taylor was the way I started. So there we go. We're gonna get Bijan here, without a doubt. And then, so right now, I'll look at my exposure. I mean, and so far, look, there's no surprises here. Breece Hall has been going right there as well. I think we're gonna see AJ Brown, Nakua, Wilson, like, all come off the board next here. With these next couple of picks. I'm moving myself here to the left so you guys can see here. So I'm pulling up all of my exposure here. We'll go through that as well. You know, I'm still probably going to do another 40 drafts or so. That's the goal here. Possibly more if I can, if I have the time to. But so I am already, messing around with exposures here. And Jamar Chase, like I said, I have 29% of Jamar Chase right now. So he's someone I'm very, aggressive, have been very aggressive on with the top 5 picks so far. And so if I can diversify, if I could get someone like a Lamb, I'm very, very excited about that. Like, I do have Christian McCaffrey already, have these, some exposure with him. I want to be under the field on Christian McCaffrey. I don't want to, completely avoid him and completely fade him, but I definitely want to be, with lower exposure. I don't want that high exposure to McCaffrey. I am concerned about durability and, is he going to be able to handle that kind of workload that he did? Don't get me wrong, if you're in a redraft league, he's, someone that you take. I don't mind taking the number 1 overall pick here, but I'm not going to, go 30%. I'm not going to go overweight on McCaffrey in my ownership here. So this is a situation where I really would love Jonathan Taylor to land to me, because then that would really give me the opportunity to go with that. Well, there you go. There goes that. So we're not going to get that. could do this with Barkley as well, but it really depends on now the receivers who land to me. You see, like I'm not passing up on either Debo or Nico Collins in this spot. So whichever one of the two are there, I'm going to go. I want to take them here over Barkley. So, and it's going to be Nico Collins. I like Olave here as well. I like him actually quite a bit, but you know what? Oh, no, I'm going to go Collins. I don't have enough Collins. I want to get more exposure to Collins. I haven't had many opportunities. I actually got him in the draft I did before this one. So when I'm looking at exposure to Nico Collins, like it's very, very low. And I want more exposure. Right now, I only have 15%. I probably want to get to that 20% range there. And then I have Olave, you know, a little bit lower. I'm looking at it now. So I have 9% Olave. I want to get closer to that 15 to 20% Olave as well. So once I complete where I'm at with Nico Collins, I'll probably get more exposure. But look, again, you know, I'm expecting him to be the number one wide receiver in Houston. I know they got Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell's coming back from the injury. Still expecting Nico Collins to be that number one wide receiver with over a 20% target share. I think you know, Stephon Diggs, like his presence is going to impact Tank Dell more than it is Nico Collins here. So I do think Tank Dell becomes a little bit more volatile on a week-to-week basis. This is actually the format I prefer Tank Dell in, if we're being honest here. No surprises here as far as what we're seeing, right? Like we kind of done a couple of these. I've done a couple of these, you know, live. We've done these on the Roster Coach live stream every Tuesday. Whenever I'm in one, I, you know, toss the link out there to all the Fantasy Group subscribers. And, you know, so kind of this is what you're seeing. Wouldn't be surprised to start seeing, you know, at the end of this round, you see a quarterback go, you know, Travis Kelce might go as well. We kind of see those kind of things. So right here, this is one of those interesting situations. Before I was going really heavy on wide receiver, and I'm probably going to click Isaiah Pacheco. I really like him here. I think he's going to get a ton of work. This is one of those offenses that they're going to score points. They have a very good offensive line there, and Pacheco's going to get a ton of opportunities, right? So with that in mind, I want exposure to him. He's someone that I'm become a little bit more aggressive on, and he fits with what I'm doing here. Like I wanted to go with that heavy running back approach early on, and I skipped out on, you know, Barkley, who I like a lot, and ETN, who I like a lot. I already have enough ETN, I think, or, you know, pretty high exposed to him as well. So Pacheco makes a lot of sense here for me, and I still like these receivers, right? Like I feel like I'm now bunched up in a specific tier. I'm really truly hoping, and this is a risk here, that Christian Kirk lands to me. He's someone that if I can get as my wide receiver too, I'm ecstatic about. So you know, now we're messing with roster construction. So this right here, this team, I think they're setting up for a nice stack, right? Whether it's Eagles or a KC stack, I could see that happening there. I'm going to try here my hardest to get some CJ Stroud action with Nico Collins, though that, you know, I could, because I also like the idea of now I could wait at the tight end position and do a full stack with Dalton Schultz. That's why I like stacking Houston. I think you're able to, you know, take a receiver early, then the quarterback you don't have to go too early on, and then the tight end you could wait, you know, a little later. If you look at Dalton Schultz, the ADP, I think it's in the 130s. Yeah, 133.6 right now. So I like the idea of a Houston stack here, but another one who I can get, if I can get Kirk, I like the Jacksonville stack. It's not much has changed as far as where I'm at with some of these players. It's just now a matter for me of exposure and making sure I don't overexpose myself to specific players or certain players. And, you know, you never want to go all in. You definitely want to diversify because of the, you know, the volatility of the sport, you know, the variance of the sport with injuries and whatnot. So right now, looking here, I'm hoping, you know, we get, you know, Mahomes. I hope they go Mahomes here. There you go. Yeah, that was the plan, right? They were setting it up there. I think that was pretty obvious. Very, very strong start there for that team. I like that there. I'm hoping that it's going to be tough here to see what they do. So perfect. So Christian Kirk, he's someone I've been pretty aggressive on, and you know, I have right now 21% Christian Kirk. I'm probably going to stay in that 25% range. But yeah, they've missed on him in the last couple of drafts, and he's been taken ahead of I've been kind of in the front end of this uh draft, so this is where I would be going. He's typically going exactly where I've been taking him, or even earlier. I've seen him go a little bit earlier here. I'm gonna see what happens here. These are two receivers that I've been very aggressive with. Well, there goes Pickens. As far as my wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. So I'm gonna see there. So they both went here. So now it's a matter of what do I want to do next? I still like Ridley in that range. I still like Godwin. Still a couple of, Keenan Allen, man, I don't like him with this receiving group that I have here, right? I don't want to add him with this. If I had maybe a stronger, wide receiver 1, maybe I would go Keenan Allen there. But for me, I just I don't like him here with this build. So I think Godwin and Ridley, those would be the two guys I would consider here with this build right now. Otherwise, I might consider going with a tight end. Andrews is not someone I have a lot of. I like him. I think he has obviously top 3, top 5 potential at the position. I can't make an argument. Well, there you go. I don't have to make a decision, right? Like I was gonna say, I can't make a strong case to draft. All right, so I'm gonna go Godwin. I like Godwin here with this build. I like him as my wide receiver 3. Deontay Johnson's another one I would consider there. Now I'll say this: if Keenan Allen drops here at 66, I'll take him there as my wide receiver 4. I would feel more comfortable with this build as my wide receiver 4 than wide receiver 3 there. So right now I'm looking at two things. I'm hoping Kyle Pitts lands to me here in this 66. He's someone I like a lot. Now we can also, right? We can also get my quarterback. We're not going to get him in the following round. Well, we could maybe, but there's going to be a little run here. I would assume some of these teams take a quarterback. So I don't think he'd get to me. If he is, it's going to be cutting it close. So if I really want to execute the stack, it has to be done, in my opinion, this upcoming round. There goes Andrews. I didn't think he would land to me. That's why I said Pitts. So we can stack, right? We could go Pitts, or really no running back or receiver that I'm looking at. I have a lot of Coleman. He's someone I generally take in this range. I do have a lot of Coleman, so maybe won't get him there. I think that's what we're gonna have to. What I'm gonna do is Pitts is there. Probably take Pitts, and then abandon the idea of a Houston stack, and then focus more on a Jacksonville stack. I will also, so we have Trevor Lawrence, and at that point we can go with a Kirk Cousins. Oh, they have the same bike. We can't do a Trevor Lawrence and no, we could get a third quarterback. We can always get a third quarterback. We could see what Baker Mayfield, look at his bye week and just get him as a. All right, so we can always do 3 quarterback build if we decide to go in that direction. And then we can go with the Atlanta stack, right? Like I think that's another way we could go about it. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so like this is adjusting to the draft, right? This is kind of, you have a plan, but you kind of go with what the draft gives you. So now I am going to focus on a Jacksonville and Atlanta stack. Now keep in mind, if CJ Stroud does for whatever reason come back to me in that next round, yes, I'm going to now try to execute that stack here, but I don't have much pits, or I don't have as much pits as I want at this moment. I actually have, I'm underweight on him right now. Yeah, well, not really underweight, but I want more exposure. I have 15% right now. I would like a little bit more. I like where he's going in ADP. So for me, he's someone that if I get, in the 20% range, 18 to 20% range, I'd be okay with. And then there was also going to be a little run, right? Like you expected a run of tight ends. So even if I missed out on Pitts, or even if I skipped on Pitts, I wasn't going to get, like, Ingram would be that next tight end that I would go after. But we have other plans here. We have other plans here. Um, so no surprises really. Like if at the end of the day, like I got my build so far is 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 1 tight end. Talk about this all the time, when it comes to roster construction. Like I always want at least, 3 wide receivers out of the top 5 rounds. It's kind of my goal. If I feel comfortable with my top 3 receivers, there's receivers here going in this range that I like a lot. They're a little quarterback run. This is the one that might get me. Well, maybe he waits around. Maybe he or she waits around for a Jared Goff. Maybe they were hoping for Joe Burrow. They got Brock Purdy stacked, so hopefully they do skip out on my guy CJ Stroud. And you know what? We worked out like a charm for us. So we're gonna see that right now. Here, I mean, Josh Allen, there's no need to draft a quarterback. Obviously, this is the only team that I'm really truly concerned about. And then when you look at the running back and receivers at this point, I feel like they're just dropping tier, and it's a matter of, do you want to take the drop a tier? Or do you need a position like, this person could use a running back. This person, yeah, there you go, running back. So it worked out perfectly. Wow, this is amazing, baby. Yes, yeah, these kind of things, So now we have options, right? Now we have options. So now we could go with. We have the Houston stack brewing right now. We can add the Jacksonville stack, or we could go to the Atlanta stack at this point, right? And I think I'm going to go with the Atlanta. I think I'm going to go Kirk Cousins because we also have Bijan Robinson. Let's not forget. And yeah, I'm going to go with that. And then so if I could get Brian Thomas or Courtland Sutton as my wide receiver 4, I'd be very happy with that. I think Thomas is going to carve out a very solidified role there. And then, we got still guys like Dobbs in the mix for wide receiver depth. Jahan Dotson is someone I have a lot of exposure to, but I don't mind drafting. This is another one that we can get for the Darnell Mooney is another player we can get there for the Atlanta stack. So I like this build thus far, and kind of want to see what happens here. We don't want to pass up. Well, there we go. So yeah, I certain running backs that I don't want to pass up on if they get to me. I think that's it. The cutoff was Swift for me. Had Swift gone back to me, I would have reconsidered, drafting a receiver. But at this point, so this team needs a running back and a quarterback. There we go. This team could very balanced roster, so they could go in any directions here. Wouldn't be surprised to see a receiver come off the board here for this team. He's been drafting really well, actually, and like this squad a lot. One of my favorite builds thus far. Another team that this team could use a quarterback. Let's see kind of what's left and if there's any correlations there. Curtis Samuel, interesting there. That's a good pick. But we get Courtland Sutton. Like at the end of the day, we're getting a wide receiver 1 on the team, someone who I think is going to get a lot of volume, right? Like he's the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver in Denver. There's no denying it. And when you look at the rest of the guys, I mean, there's Mims is interesting. They have Tim Patrick there. They added Reynolds. So yeah, they're interesting, but there's no one else I think is going to really compete for massive targets with him. Like I think he's the clear-cut one, and I think in the 8th round he's just a steal. He's one of my highest owned receivers for that reason. Like he truly is. Like I have right now an uncomfortable amount is 26%. If we're being honest, it's 26%, but it's just tough to pass up on him at this stage. Like, especially when you take the kind of approach I took where, I went running back heavy. I went with an elite tight end. I went with an elite quarterback. Like, I went with a different build, like having him as my wide receiver 4. I really think it solidifies the lineup here a lot. So I like him. So now we're in a great position, right? Because now we know the direction we're going in. Now we know the kind of our plan. Now we know that Kirk Cousins, we're going to have to, 136. So if we look at ADPs, you're looking at, we're probably going to have to take him around 11, right? If we want to solidify that stack, because yes, if we wait here, he's around ADP. We already took that risk and that gamble with CJ Stroud. Don't think we need to take it with Kirk Cousins there. And then if we want to get the the stack here with Dalton Schultz, I mean, so this is what I have to do: tight end, tight end, tight end, tight end, tight end. Well, this is the only team that doesn't have a tight end. All right, so I'd be more inclined to take that risk and see if Schultz comes here. I'm sorry, right here at 138, right? Which is not that many picks. Like he's going to be a lot of these other teams tight end twos. So yeah, so that's probably my plan there. Right now, I mean, we could do as we please, right? We have a good build. So I like Brandon Cooks here as my wide receiver 5. If he goes, I like Shaheed. I have some decent exposure to him already. So I don't think we need to go there. So I think Brandon Cooks is interesting here, but I'm gonna go with Pollard. I have a lot of Zach Moss. I like Zach Moss this year. He's one of my favorite targets at ADP, but with this build, I like Pollard. I think he's going to have an interesting role there in Tennessee. I do think he's going to split, share the workload with Tajay Spears, but I think Pollard's going to get enough. And, something that really stood out to me, I did the QB target shares there over at fantasyguru.com, and I was very, very, intrigued by the fact of how many, targets, how often Will Levis targeted the quarterback position. And if you look there at the screen, I popped up the thing, but Will Levis last season threw to the running back position 22.8% of his pass attempts. And to me, that's interesting. You got 2 pass catching, running backs, one in Tony Pollard. Tajay Spears could also catch the ball out of the backfield. So interesting to see that. I know it's a small sample size with Will Levis, so we obviously don't have to, place too much emphasis on that. But I still think that Pollard's going to have a decent role, and I'm getting him as my running back 3. So with these other 2 guys, I like that. He's someone that with Courtland Sutton as my wide receiver 4 can also play a role in the flex here. And I like Williams. I don't have much exposure to him, but I like where he's going, and I like the idea of taking some shots. But be honest with you, if Brandon Cooks is there, I don't know if he's going to come back to me. If Brandon Cooks is there, I am going to get some exposure there to Brandon Cooks. I haven't really been on Lockett here in this range. Just don't like it. I might go Dotson if Brandon Cooks is drafted before me right here, which I wouldn't be surprised. You have Dak Prescott, so very, very high probability there that he goes Brandon Cooks. Let's see. Yeah. I've gotten some Singletary recently, but I don't want too much. I've just gotten him in different builds. I don't think he makes sense here. I'm gonna go with Dotson. You know what? Let's go in a different direction. As much as I like Dotson, I'm gonna go with Wicks here. I don't have a lot of Wicks. And I have a lot of Dobbs, and I kind of want exposure to a different Packers pass catcher there. And I think this is going to be a little bit, this is good for diversifying here exposure. When you look at Dotson, 29%, I have a lot, kind of, glanced at it and don't want that kind of exposure there to him. Now, I'll tell you this. If he falls back to me here, I probably am not going to skip. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. We're going to execute the plan here. See, that's the thing. You get wrapped up in who you want and the players you like, and we got to keep in mind the plan at hand, right? Keep in mind the plan at hand, and this is what we got to do. This is how we're going to prioritize this stuff here, just like that. Now, let me see what else we got here. So Wilson's another receiver. Wan'Dale Robinson is another receiver I've been very, very bullish on. He's probably going to be up there, as far as ownership. So he actually right now got 24%. Wan'Dale Robinson. It's high, but it's just you're getting him at a very late round. It's the risk reward factor for me is what does it. You're not risking a lot of draft capital, a high draft capital, and you're getting really good upside. I think someone that can give you not 1, not 2, not 3, potentially a handful of peak weeks And if he could somehow carve out a consistent role in this offense, I think he could be a steal here. So I like him at where he's going. But here we go. I mean, really, really want to execute here. So the Dalton Schultz, that's it. That's obviously not going to happen here. So we right now have a two-man Houston stack, and I think we'll probably leave it at that. We could mess around with the idea of, a receiver in one of the last rounds, but I'm good with just two here. I wouldn't mind going with a four-man Atlanta stack, though, if we can get Cousins and Mooney. I'd really like that. Mooney would be my wide receiver 6, and I think there's going to be some big moments. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and so right now everyone here has a quarterback, so chances are Kirk Cousins does get back to me, especially with all these guys. But I don't want to risk it. Like, I just don't want to risk it. So I'm going to do that there. And then I have now my 2 stacks. I got a quarterback, one bye week, a quarterback on a different bye week. So we're good. I'm okay with having just 2 quarterbacks with this build. If I find myself in a position later in the draft where maybe I can do add another quarterback, and another stack, some other correlation, maybe I will do that. But I'm totally fine with, Stroud as my QB1 and only having Cousins as a backup there. Would it force a third quarterback with this build? Same thing with tight end. Like, it really depends on who my tight end 2 is. But having Kyle Pitts as my 1, I'm totally fine with just 2 tight ends with this roster construction here. So kind of where we're at here. Let's take a look at, what we got at the running back position. Like, Charbonnet's someone that I don't mind as a running back 4 here. But so Ray Davis, I have a lot of exposure. I was very aggressive with him early on, kind of have cooled down just because of how much I have. I don't want to have like 50% Ray Davis. I've kind of been pivoting to Jalen Wright, who I like a lot here in that range. Tyron Tracy is another one I kind of been gravitating towards here, late in drafts. So we have options, and like I said, we have 2 strong running backs as my 1-2. I got, obviously we got the Pacheco, Bijan Robinson, so very good. I'm okay with Pollard as that 3rd running back. I think he's going to have some pretty big weeks. So depends on who my 4-5 are. This is a roster construction that could end up with just 5 running backs. But we're going to see. We're going to see. We still got, plenty of drafting to go. But just kind of thinking of the rest of the way of how we're going to approach this draft here. Really hoping Mooney lands to me. That would be ideal there. So yeah, we got Mooney. We got a nice Atlanta stack here. So we got Mooney, Pitts, and Bijan. I mean, if this offense really goes off, we're gonna have some big weeks here. And now, is it concerning? It can be. I'm going to try to avoid now week 12 bye weeks the rest of the way, right? If we can. So I am going to try to avoid that as much as possible. We have to keep that in mind when it comes to the tight end position. Gesicki's someone I have often gravitate towards, but I think he's a week 12 bye. Yeah, you see a week 12 bye. So if I want Gesicki, I'm going to have to go with a 3 tight end build, right? And these are things that I keep in mind. Like, Conklin is someone that I've also been gravitated towards, but again, week 12 bye. So I'm going to have to choose one or the other, right? With this construction. So I'm going to have to choose one or the other. Now, if I get, Wan'Dale Robinson, if I land Wan'Dale Robinson and I end up with Daniel Jones as well as a 3rd quarterback here, I may go with Theo Johnson, as a stacking option. He's someone I kind of been, targeting very late in those New York Giants stacks. I like the Giants stack a lot, actually. Talked about this before, but I think they're cheap, and I think that, when you're looking at the value you're getting for the players, I think it's pretty solid. So they're a stack that I kind of been gravitating towards as a 3rd, sometimes 2nd stack here. So so Michael Wilson went. That, again, I like Wilson, man. I've been really keying in on him in these later rounds. I'm looking at exposure right now. We have 24% of Michael Wilson. Zay Jones, in this instance, Zay Jones is probably someone I I might, pivot to, or Greg Dortch, since we couldn't get Wilson. If we're looking at, depth at the receiver position, those are two guys that you can consider here. Now, the question is, like, do I want to go running back, right? Or do I want to go wide receiver? So in this instance, I would take Jalen Wright if he's there. And I'm going to give my thoughts on Jalen Wright just in a second here. I kind of want to see what happens. If he goes, I'm probably going to just take Wan'Dale Robinson here. I don't want to take Hawkinson. I don't like Matt. All right, so perfect. So we're gonna go right. I like right, and here's my thought process with right. Raheem Mostert's coming off a big season, obviously. Missed time though, right? And someone that has had issues staying on the field throughout his career. Devon Achane missed some time as well as a rookie, and he's just a smaller back. Like, I think he's an incredible back, right? I think when he has the ball in his hands, he does incredible work, and just super talented, explosive. Like, but the problem is, I don't think he could handle upwards of 15 opportunities per game on a consistent basis through the entirety of the season. I don't think he's built for that, right? So if he's in that 12 to 15 range, they're still going to utilize another back. That's going to be Mostert early on. But if Mostert has any trouble staying on the field, I think Wright is going to step into a pretty significant role, and he's going to get opportunities inside the 10 and inside the 20, if he does step into that Mostert role. And the Dolphins, at the end of the day, value this young man because, yes, they drafted him in the 4th round, but they gave up a 3rd round to get him here this season. So essentially, they view him as a 3rd round running back. So for me, I think this young man is going to carve out a role. And this isn't, at the end of the day, Mike McDaniel offense. He's a genius. Like, I think there's there's going to be some potential opportunities for this young man. So having him here for depth, I don't need his services right away. I got, Bijan Robinson, Pacheco, that in my opinion, you lock him in top 10 production when healthy each and every week. And if down the stretch he, Wright becomes a big thing, I mean, now we're talking about another player that's going to be in the mix for my flex spot, or even RB2, and weeks maybe RB1. Depending on the role, depending on what happens there. So, yeah, so this worked out because once again, now we got Wan'Dale Robinson, who I've been, targeting. He's what my wide receiver 7 there. So I like him there. I have 7 receivers that I'm comfortable with. If, obviously I think there's going to be volatility. Like when it comes to Moody, I don't think there's going to be consistent production, but I do think there are going to be some peak weeks. And, with the rest of my build, like I said, I have Kirk, I think, is a floor play. Godwin's a floor play. Nico Collins, I want to say a floor play, but, I think that there will be some quiet weeks from just because there's going to be the weeks where Diggs and Tank Dell go off and Nico Collins doesn't have to do much, right? Or the running game goes off and maybe the passing game isn't so hot. So there are definitely going to be those weeks. I think it'd be silly to think Nico Collins is just going to peak every week. But I do think at the end of the season, he's going to be the highest scoring Houston Texans receiver. And I think he's going to demand the highest target share of the group here. So I like that. I think Sutton's going to be a very high floor play. Wicks, I don't find that like he's going to be a floor play, but I do think he's going to have some strong performance. I think he's going to have a decent role there in Green Bay. So I like this. I like this group. Like when you build a receiving group, and I'm going to talk about this on the next Mind and Marcel podcast. So keep an eye out for that one. But I'm going to talk about wide receiver builds and roster construction, and and more for redraft and best ball. But it's not that the concept is not that far off. When you're looking at receiving types and stuff like that. So, so let's see what we got here at the tight end position. So we have to make a decision, right? I'm going to go with running back. That's what I'm going to go running back and then reevaluate. I like Braylon Allen. He's someone that I've been kind of getting here. Kind of the same with feeling as right. I think Allen is going to be the backup there to Breece Hall. I think he's going to get, the opportunities if Hall's were to miss time. And And again, I don't need service from the running back. From any of these running backs, I don't need their services. I have three guys that can rely on each and every week. And, getting two guys that if, down the stretch, something were to happen to the starting running back, some potential roles can open up. I'm going to take those, those kind of opportunities. When I looked at the tight end positions, there was just several guys that I like, several guys that I'm okay with in this range. So I didn't think it was, necessary. I might even go Daniel Jones here on the way back, if it permits. If he's available there. Well, there you go. There goes that plan. So again, I wasn't going to actively do it. It wasn't a must for me, but something I did consider. Now, I have a choice, right? Do I go with Conklin, the safe bet, or Gesicki? Like, I'm going to go with one or the other, right? But with a 3 tight end build here. So with Pitts, I don't think I need the safe bet, right? I think I prefer having Gesicki, which is going to be that 1 week, he's going to potentially have a pretty solid week. And then other weeks might be very quiet, right? I don't know if he's going to carve out a consistent role. He's someone that I've been targeting a lot in the late rounds because I do think there's going to be some massive weeks. I think he's going to be utilized as a receiver. Well, there goes Conklin anyways. But if I had a more volatile tight end one, or at least one that I was expecting more volatility with, I would probably go with the safe floor Conklin. I think Conklin's a decent floor. And I think a pretty good value here where he's going. So knowing that, now let's talk about receivers here. Oh, he went. I was looking for Mims. Okay, he went. All right, so we're gonna go Tolbert if he's available. Oh, yeah, he has a data stack going on there, so understandably so. So we're gonna no. All right, so I'm gonna go with I like Greg Deutsch here. Kind of like him with this build. And then now at the end of the day, look, we're gonna go Gesicki, and I might just go with a Dolchik or even a Theo Johnson, even though we missed out on, on Daniel Jones. So at that point, like, I know, like, there's a couple guys here we can make a case for: Johnny Smith, Hayden Hurst, Okonkwo. But I'm gonna just wait here at this point. I'm okay with, 2, 3, 2, 3. I mean, even if we go with, 3 here, or even Sanders as third, like, I'm okay with that. I knew there was going to be a little run coming up here. But now I have 8 receivers. We could do one more running back here with this build. I was gonna consider Dameon Pierce. Hopefully he lands me. I kind of like him. I think he's someone that goes overlooked here. If Joe Mixon goes down, Pierce, I think, is going to assume a decent role. Someone who struggled last year, but as a rookie, last year he's capable of handling a decent workload there. So, right now my focus is going to be on Pierce, and if he's not there, we'll just get a tight end. I mean, if Hurst comes back to us, that's another one we can consider here. Even though Conko, another player we can consider, but we don't have to worry about the wide receiver position here anymore. At least not right now. I'm still going to get one more wide receiver. Yeah, he's interesting. Oh, there he goes. Yeah, there you go. All right, so let's see what we got here. 2 tight ends, 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends. Yeah, so we don't have to take a tight end. Everyone here has 2 or more tight ends. We're the only team actually with 1 tight end so far. Oh, no. Okay, so we now know that on the way back, we can't let a tight end pass us. So they got 2 quarterbacks. It's 5 running backs. 5 running backs, 5 running backs. All right, so there's really no correlations we can have like here. Right, so we're gonna leave as is as far as the quarterback is concerned. All right, so we're gonna go Pierce. That's it. We're done with running backs in this draft. I'm gonna go Pierce here. We're done with running backs in the draft. So we have 2 picks, 2 of which are gonna be tight ends, and one of which is more than likely going to be a wide receiver. Probably going to end up with a, wide receiver. I've been going a lot, Jawan Jennings, Van Jefferson in these later rounds. Kind of where I'm going. Khalif Raymond is another one I've have some shares of there. But outside of that, not a ton that I like in this range. So might be a situation where I take a tight end, then I take a receiver, and then the last round I'll take a tight end. Zay Jones is another one, but we got Dortch. So like if I miss on Wilson, I'll get Zay Jones or Dortch here. Don't want to get too much exposure to either two, but I do like this Arizona offense quite a bit here. So you're gonna see a little people taking 3 tight ends already here. Jeez. All right. Let's see here. We're gonna be able to get our guy Jaceki. Hopefully we can. Let's see what else we got cooking here. So Prince and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a very interesting situation there. I was taking, and I have a lot of Edwards-Helaire, so I'm pretty much done drafting him at this point. Maybe I'll get some more later on. All right, so we're gonna lock in Jaceki. So we know now we definitely need a third tight end. We got 2 tight ends with a week 12 bye, right? We're mindful of that here. Let's see what kind. So Juwan Jennings, Van Jefferson. I'm trying to look at exposure here, like guys I've been targeting this range. I guess I don't want too much. All right, so and Khalif Raymond. One of those 3 I'll probably take in the next round here. Now, hopefully, so if Theo Johnson doesn't get drafted before my next pick, like outside of Cagbelly, I don't see anyone else who would be taking a tight end, right? So those are the kind of things you gotta think about there. So I'm hoping that, if not, let's have a back plan, right? That's a good idea. So we can't do Knox. Can't do Knox. I don't mind Dolce and Sanders. All right, so we'll do it that way. All right, so there goes Van Jefferson. Gray. I still like Tyron Tracy, guys. I know Eric Gray looked good. In the preseason game, scored 2 touchdowns or whatnot. But I still think that what Tracy brings to the table is going to be very valuable for this team. And I think he's going to carve out a solid passing role, like as a pass catcher there in the Giants. You're gonna see that. All right, so I'm gonna go with Jennings here. All right, so we are done with receivers. So the next order of business and our final pick is going to be a tight end. Now, the reason why I skipped on Theo Johnson is because the only other team here with more than or just 2 tight ends is everyone else has 3, right? Like I don't see a lot of 4 tight end builds, especially when it's Mark Andrews. Oh, it's on Kelsey. This is the one team that could, but I would be surprised. Really would be surprised here if that happened. So if we're able to get Theo Johnson, I think we've executed our plan, right? And again, it's just hopefully you're watching this and as I talk through some of these picks and as I talk to some of these plays and kind of what I'm doing, you see that I might go into a draft, right, with a plan, and maybe I say, okay, I want to come out with X amount of receivers, X amount of running backs through the first 5-6 rounds. But sometimes the draft goes in a different direction. Sometimes players that you would like, or that you like a lot end up falling to you didn't expect it. We kind of encountered that situation a couple of times in this draft. And if you're able to make those adjustments and then continue with a plan and, build off of your adjustments and build that plan, I think you're going to be fine, right? So you never want to be stuck. If you're stuck in a specific way, if you say, okay, no, I have to leave the first round with a wide receiver, I have to leave the second round with a running back, I have to. If you do that, you're not going to be able to make adjustments. You're going to miss opportunities, right? You're going to miss opportunities to invest in players you like a lot, simply because you're saying, okay, this is the only way to do it here. So again, for me, I think having a plan is great, but I think adjusting, and here we go. I mean, we did it here, and we ended up with a 2-6-9-3 build. Okay, we went 2 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 9 receivers, 3 tight ends. I like this build, especially when you have a quarterback like CJ Stroud. I mean, for me, he's just, at what, top 6, top 7 in most rankings, is top 6 in my rankings. Kirk Cousins, I am a little bit concerned of him returning from the kind of injury he's returning from, but reports have all been positive thus far. And again, even if he starts off slow or even if he's eased into game action, I don't need his services right away, right? I don't need that Kirk Cousins production because I think I'm going to get that from Stroud on a week-to-week basis. So I'm okay with that. I went heavy at the running back position, right? Kind of mixing things up. I went Bijan and Pacheco, 2 top 10 running backs on my board. Bijan, a top 2 running back on my board. Tony Pollard, someone who I am not enamored with in redraft leagues, but I think in a best ball format, I like the idea of, having Pollard. I think he's going to have some big moments. But I am fully aware that he's going to share or have some type of, split workload there with Tajay Spears. Then I went with 2 young running backs who are not going to enter the season with a role. They're, more going to be backups or, in Wright's instance case, he's going to be what, 3rd string there, in Miami. So I went with those 2, and then Pierce is a handcuff. I mean, he's a handcuff on a good offense, and I think someone who's going to step into a solidified role if Mixon were to miss any time. So I like this build. I went with 3 guys that are going to give me production and 3 who can at one point or at some point maybe, have some high-end opportunities there. My receivers, Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, Godwin, Sutton, I'm very comfortable with those 4 as my top 4 receivers. That's my 1, 2, 3, 4. Wicks, Mooney, Robinson, getting a lot of volatility there, but I think in their peak weeks, there's some that can help out my lineup here. George, again, I'm investing in this Arizona offense. I think behind McBride and behind Harrison Jr., it's Wilson that's going to see the majority of opportunities aside from those 2, right? I think he'll be the 3rd in the pecking order. And you can even, make a case for saying James Conner is going to be involved in that as a pass catcher. And I think George or Zay Jones will have, some opportunities, some games where they could perform, but I don't think it's going to be consistent. So, but I still think this is going to be an offense that is exciting, is one that's going to produce points. So I definitely want to be invested in them. And then Juwan Jennings, look, if Brandon Ayuk signs with the 49ers, if he stays with the 49ers, whatever the case may be, this is, Jennings is going to pretty much collect dust there on the bench. But if they move on from him, he could eventually step into a role. So it's a risk that I'm taking with one of my last picks. Like you're taking the risk for, the potential reward. And then Kyle Pitts, I mean, for me, he's due for a breakout season this year. Just incredibly talented tight end who's just been dealt a bad hand, right? He's been dealt a shitty hand since entering the NFL. His best quarterback situation since entering the league. So I think he's in for a huge year. I like where he's going. I think his ADP is very fair for the ceiling that he provides us. So for me, he's a slam dunk at where he's going. Gesicki, I think there's a lot of upside. I like that he's in the Bengals offense. I want to be invested in this offense. They're one of my highest owned offenses. So he's one of my highest owned tight ends as well. So, and then Theo Johnson, I was a big fan of the rookie. I took him in one of my dynasty leagues. I know that the learning curve for the position does tend to take long, but I look at this offense and man, they need people to step up, right? They need someone to step up. And I've read a lot of good stuff about Johnson thus far, and the coaching staff seems pretty happy with him and with his work ethics, and everything I've read about his work ethics have been very positive. And for me, I'm a sucker for those kind of things, man. Like if you have a talented, like this guy is a specimen, right? If you have a specimen that's physically gifted, like Theo Johnson is, and then has high work ethics, like give me that all day, every day, man. Like I talk about this even when like with my little league baseball stuff, like these kids that come in there and just work and grind it out. I go to war with those kind of people all the time, man. I love it. So Theo Johnson, like as my third tight end, I don't need, right? Like I don't need his production. The bye week here is week 12. By week 12, hopefully he's already, feeling it, getting better, adjusted, acclimated, all of that stuff. And maybe there's some production there for Johnson. So that's kind of the thought process with, taking that kind of tight end with my other two having a bye week in the week 12. So yeah, this was fun. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Remember, you can follow me obviously my YouTube channel on social media at Armando_Marcel. That is X, formerly known as Twitter. We got Threads, TikTok, and Instagram at Mind of Marcel. Follow my podcast, Mind of Marcel. You can, wherever you consume podcasts, whether it's SoundCloud, Apple, Spotify, anywhere you're consuming your podcast, you'll be able to check that out. So it's Mind of Marcel there. Like I said, I'm going to be recording a podcast. I'll talk about roster construction and some other topics I want to discuss, but I know roster construction, so I definitely will be talking about that. And all of my work can be found on fantasyguru.com. And oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this before, but if you haven't already done so, we have a promo code ELITE, which gives you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. If you're ready deposit, don't worry. We also have Elite 10, gives you a 10% reload bonus there on your reload deposit. So make sure you take advantage of both promotions there that we got going on with fantasyguru.com. Hopefully you enjoyed the draft. Hopefully you like the team. Make sure you rate, review, whatever, comments. Let me know what you thought of the team. Let me know what you think of this roster construction. And I'll be recording more of these, so stick around, and you'll find more of these posted here on this YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Have a great day.